And don't forget to
Oh,
mute when you're not talking.
this is the opening statement. This is a special meeting of the Princeton Historic Preservation Commission being held electronically via Zoom on June 1st, 2020 at 4 p.m. Pursuant to Section 13 of the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of the time and place and agenda of this meeting has been noticed by transmitting a copy to the Princeton Packet, Town Topics, the Times, Trentonian, and by filing a copy with the Clerk of Princeton, and it has been posted to the municipal website, www.princetonnj.gov/meetings, pursuant to Executive Order 107, due to the state of emergency in New Jersey regarding COVID-19. Notice that during the declared state of emergency, all regular and special meetings of the Princeton Historic Preservation Commission will be held electronically via Zoom. Was transferred to the Princeton Packet, Town Topics, the Times, and was filed with the Clerk of Princeton. Such notices have been placed on the official bulletin board at the municipal complex and on the Princeton website, and are to be maintained throughout the year, and by transmitting a copy of the same to the Princeton Packet, Town Topics, the Times, Trentonian, and by filing a copy with the Clerk of Princeton. That's very repetitive. Just so we know, the agenda, announcements, we have one application, one concept review, one other matter, and then after that, public comment, staff reports, and member reports. So are there any announcements? I'll go over the zoning board meeting in the member reports. So we'll start with, if we're ready, we'll start with the application of 338 Nassau Street. Celia or Daniel, do you see the applicants ready? Oh, sorry. Sorry, before we start, I think Daniel has to take the roll.
And the applicants are here.
Good.
Julie Capazzoli,
Here.
Celia Tazalar,
Here.
Robert Bonzenbush,
Here.
David Shore,
Here.
Roger Shatkin,
Here.
Shirley Satterfield.
Here.
We have a quorum. Yes.
Madam Chair, I think I see a Tom over in the panelist, and I wonder if that's our Tom White.
Oh yeah, that must be Tom.
Let me okay, let's see. Let's bring him over. All right. Tom? Is that Tom White? I hope it's not a
I don't know if their mute is on.
Yeah.
I don't know if Elizabeth, can you send a chat to Tom?
I'll try reaching him if it's all right. Okay, I apologize.
Okay, I see Tom.
There he is.
Yeah. Tom, your mute is on. So.
Unmute, okay.
And David, I see David Cohen also needs to be moved over.
Thank you.
I just moved them over.
Okay.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you. So let it be noted that Tom White and David Cohen joined the meeting at 4:13.
Is Ed Schmier here?
Yes.
That wasn't recorded in the attendance, so.
Oh. Ed, you're here, right?
He's
He's
muted.
muted.
Oh,
I'm here.
thank you. All right, now we can start with the application. Can we bring the applicants onto the panel?
Okay, Daniel, I see Chris Tarr, Peter Morgan, and William King. I believe that comprises the applicants, and then there are three other groups who I believe are members of the public, one concept review person. So let's move Peter, William, and Chris over.
Thank you.
They're all moved over.
Thank you, and welcome to the HPC meeting. Elizabeth,
Yes.
do you want to go over your report for 338 Nassau Street? Not the 28 pages, but just the 3 pages?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So King Interest LLC has filed an application to amend their approval received for a minor site plan with variances. The applicant came before HPC at their June 25th, 2018 meeting and received HPC's endorsement for the application, subject to recommendations set forth in the HPC Vice Chair's memorandum to the Zoning Board. That report is included in the report that you had. The application was reviewed and approved with conditions by the Zoning Board at their September 26, 18 meeting, which stipulated many of the HPC recommendations which were outlined in the Vice Chair's memorandum. The applicant is returning to HPC to request existing building and new addition roof material, which was approved with Owens Corning True Definition Duration shingles in colonial slate color, to be changed to a standing seam roof instead. The 16-inch striated metal roof panels will be factory coated. There are just only 2 comments at the end of the report, which actually asks that the applicant advise the commission of the thickness of the metal paneling and the color, and a complete manufacturer's product, which I think that they're going to be able to explain if the commission is interested. And the commission is asked if the new roof material is appropriate for the historic building and the new addition, and to take into consideration its appearance on Nassau and Harrison Street right of way. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Tarr, do you want to start?
You're muted.
Oh,
Chris.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. We're all getting used to unmuting. So, in fact, lawyers should perhaps mute more. I don't know. I think Elizabeth has summarized it very well. The one change I would note is that the King interests have bought the building and have their offices in the building, and in fact want to get started with this renovation, which you approved a couple of years ago. So Bill King is the leader of the group, and Peter Morgan is the architect. You might remember that when we were with you before, Bill reminded you that he was trained as an architect. And so with that in mind, I think Bill and Peter could explain to you their thinking in support of the request to change the roofing.
okay. Can they unmute, or do
push
we
the
need
button.
to do that?
I think I could just, you can just unmute themselves.
I just unmuted myself.
Well
Can you
done,
hear
Bill.
me?
We can, Bill.
Before you go further, Bill, and is Peter on?
I am.
All right. Do you swear the testimony about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Well, may I start by saying, this is Bill King. May I start by saying that I appreciate and thank you very much, Julie, Elizabeth, and the committee for taking the time and processing this application especially in this environment, which is confusing at best. And for those of at least me that's technologically challenged, this is quite a feat, just being able to be on here and be able to present this case to you. I don't want to take up any more of your time, so I'll turn it over to Peter, who will actually present the technical part of this.
Thank you.
Thank you for hearing this alteration to the original application. We felt and I think it was Bill's wish all along to have the metal roof, and we had submitted that material originally, and so we feel the metal roof is more in keeping than the asphalt shingle roof that was in the original application. And that might have been done for expediency, but we did, carefully select color, profile. It's a low profile roof, not a less expensive commercial roof, which would typically have 1.5 inch standing seam and be kind of bulky in profile. This has a 1-inch profile and a 16-inch pan. And I think it'll be very in keeping with historic buildings of this nature. As I think argued to Bill at one point, there wasn't asphalt shingles back then. So it had to be, a couple of different materials, and that would be slate, cedar, or metal. And in most likelihood, this was a metal roof, but we couldn't find any evidence to support that. The idea would be to have the standing seam metal roof on the new addition, as well as the front street on Nassau Street as well, and the little pedimented entry into the building. And the color we've picked, I think, is in keeping, and you guys have that color sample. And I think that will be fitting for the Jugtown Historic District. I really don't have anything else to add. Did I miss anything, Bill?
No, I think you didn't say what the color is, but this color is a gray color. It's a darker gray color. And I've forgotten who the manufacturer is, Peter, and what their technical name for that color.
Yeah, I think it's angle, and it's a slate gray. I don't have it in front of me.
Elizabeth, do you have the file that you could share on the screen?
Sorry, the file is on the, David, maybe you could assist?
Yeah, I'm just going to open the
It's on the meeting.
attachments. These are the attachments, the email that you sent earlier.
Yes, yeah, they're on, and they're also on the website.
Okay, but I think, well, I'll try using the PDF attachments, and if that doesn't work, I'll go to the website. Hold on.
Thank you.
I'm just trying to, it's taking me a minute to find the one with the color sample. All right, well, what I'm going to do is share the architectural drawings, which can help. Hold on a sec.
David, if you wanted to share your screen with me, I could show you. I have the colors up.
Well, I can't share my screen with you. You can share your screen with the group. Let me just try and explain that to you real quick.
Yeah, I can do that. If you will want to go through the drawings first or the colors first, let me know.
Why don't you go through the colors first, since this is a minor change, just the material? I think that'll be the most, yeah.
Bill, if I'm not mistaken, can you all see my screen here?
Yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe we have the slate gray.
So that's the medium gray, fourth row down on the right. Yeah.
Correct.
All right, did everyone see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Did you want to share the profile?
I can do that.
And
Okay.
So there it is, the 16-inch pan with the 1-inch profile, 1-inch standing seam.
All right. Thank you. So I think that's very helpful. Maybe we should move to discussion.
Julie, if I could just make a quick comment. I take this as a teaching moment, both for other applicants and for any members of the public. I think that it's quite important that applicants become prepared to share any presentation materials and not rely on stuff that was submitted, because this being a hearing, there may be people who haven't seen the packages that were submitted who need to be able to see the application materials to have the record hold up in court. I'll let Ed comment on that if he wants to add anything, but I just wanted to make that point so that we can make sure to follow that protocol in the future.
A good point.
David, it's sort of like muting and unmuting. We did submit the materials. Elizabeth said that your staff put them up for everybody's use, but as we've seen for the last couple of minutes, that's very difficult to do. So I think we're going to work a little harder on sharing screens as Peter did so ably just now.
Yes, good. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Good. Could Peter maybe put the color samples back up? I'm sorry, just because I had a question about that. I was just, I noticed that, so you chose a light gray color, but I noticed that there was something off to the side in a box that said something like galvanized finish. It was more like a natural metal finish rather than a, I guess this would be sort of like powder coated or some type of factory applied paint, very durable paint, but I see something like pre-weathered galvanized. Is that pretty similar to the, I'm just wondering if just a straight metal
Celia, I might just comment on that because I'm in Rocky Hill and I did a similar roof. And I put on the metal, which is actually steel, and they put a galvalume on there as a protective layer. The problem is that if it gets nicked, it begins to rust. And also when you're coming up against dissimilar metals, whether it be siding or copper flashing, it presents problems. And so we opted to go with the aluminum finish. It's, you know, if it gets nicked or anything, it doesn't begin to corrode.
And it's, well, I think it's probably very close in appearance. I've seen some of these, and maybe the house, I'm thinking there's a house on Montgomery Road coming out of, away from Rocky Hill that has a roof like this, but I think it's more of a copper, metallic copper color. But I guess it's intended to look kind of like a lead-coated copper roof. Is that the intention here?
Yes.
And there is just a comment that there is that pent roof over the sort of a side entrance that has a standing seam metal roof, that little porch roof. So
That's going to be removed?
Oh, okay. All right, I didn't remember that. That was part of the Michael Graves, when the Michael Graves had that space as their gift shop. They put that on. All right.
Correct.
Okay, so we already reviewed that. I won't go there. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Are there other questions about the color? All right, well, maybe we should go back to the regular screen, and I'll just go member by member. All right. So are there other questions or comments about this substitution? Robert?
Yeah, I think it's highly unlikely that it was a metal roof to begin with. It was almost certainly a wood shingle roof. And I think that making it a metal roof calls attention to it, whereas the other three historic buildings on that corner do not have metal roofs. And it's a unity that forms a unity in that particular location of those three buildings. And I do not think that a metal roof is appropriate in this case.
Just to correct that point, the adjacent building has metal roofs on both the high and
Which
the low.
one?
At the corner of Harrison and Nassau. Both the high and the low roofs are standing seam.
The Eastbrook design.
But I just think that the metal roof is not appropriate in this case.
Are there other comments, questions?
I think that the Eastbrook building, for lack of a better name, East Ridge Design Building next door, I think that building has a facade easement with the Historical Society. Does anybody know that? And I think that changes to that structure would have been pretty carefully studied. So I don't think that the metal roof may be that far off from being something that at least another group of our colleagues thought was correct. If Elric were here, he might know that.
I did that application as well, and that roof was original. I mean, as far back as anybody can remember, that was standing seam metal.
Yeah.
Right.
What did the Historical Society have to do with it?
I think they own a facade agreement on it.
The reason I asked is because Mrs. Updike used to live in that house, and I don't know if it's in relation to the Updike farm.
Yeah.
She was at the high school when I was there.
I remember that. Yeah. In any event, in reference to context, there's an adjacent building that's similar.
And that roof is also gray.
Yes.
Mhm.
Gray or is it black?
No, the house is black, but I think the roof is more of a gray.
It's a metallic roof.
Mhm. Right.
Yeah, if I
Any
remember
other-
that application, sorry, if I remember that application, part of the building had an original standing seam roof on it, and they added a new part, I believe. Maybe you can remember, Chris.
What we call the new part was the little residential wing that had been there for many years, and it in fact had shingles which have been changed over to standing seam. In fact, it's the side of the building most adjacent to this building.
All right, thanks.
Any other comments, questions?
Well, can I say this, and then maybe everybody else can react to it? That probably the age of these buildings predates metal roofs, but that a metal roof replacement would not have been uncommon during its lifetime since the buildings were constructed. But we don't have any verification that there was a standing seam metal roof on that building. So how does that jive with the Secretary of Interior standards about not creating any false historical?
Well, one thing is that it's considered something which is reversible and therefore might well be allowed for that reason.
I don't know how
Yes,
to raise,
Celia.
I can't find the raised hand feature on the panelists, so I'll just raise my
Yeah,
hand.
we'll use that.
So just from the standpoint of our ordinance and our review standards, we have not incorporated fully the Secretary of the Interior standards. We have certain elements of the standards which have to do with retaining as much as possible early and original materials and preserving rather than replacing. I think in the case of roofs, what we often look at is, well, how impactful is that roof and its material to the overall appearance of the building and the building within the district. And I'm guessing that the Kings want to put a metal roof because it's a much more durable roof than asphalt shingle. So if you're going to do it well. This is a very shallowly pitched roof on the Nassau Street facade. I think less so on Harrison Street. So we're talking about replacing an asphalt or fiberglass shingle roof, which is certainly not historic or original. So I have no, in terms of applying our standards for review, I don't think that this roof will present a negative impact to the appearance of the house, given this very shallow pitch of the roof. It'll be not highly visible, and also that it's not incongruous with other houses in Jugtown. I mean, the house right next door also has a standing metal roof. So and I think that the roof has been carefully selected to be very low key. The color that was chosen is very low key. It's very modest. It's made to look kind of like a natural metal roof. The color was chosen for the reason stated, that the aluminum is longer lasting. So I think it meets the standards of our ordinance, and I have no objection to it.
All right. Well, do you want to make a motion and then see how that goes?
Okay, well, I move the approval of the preservation plan application for 38 Nassau Street as submitted.
All right,
Second that.
Daniel, do you want to take the, oh yeah, I need a second, sorry.
I seconded.
Thank you. Daniel,
Discussion,
since it's,
any discussion?
oh,
I think Bill is trying to speak and is on mute. I don't know whether he's muted himself or he's been muted. Daniel,
He's not
Somehow it
muted,
just
doesn't say.
came.
oh, wait a
Yeah,
minute.
I'm okay. It was muted before, but now it seems to be reversed.
Okay, thanks, Bill.
all right. So is there more discussion before we vote, or are you ready to vote? Yes, Celia.
I just want to point out that we do have some attendees, and I would like to, would you entertain public comment if there's an attendee here from the public who wants to comment on this project? I'm not sure how they raise their hand. Oh, I don't know if there's a member of the public who would like to comment on this, can they raise their hand?
That feature's doesn't show on the bottom.
Yeah.
There's, if they click on participants, that should open a side panel with a list of participants. There's,
Raise hand.
and they should be able to raise their hand. There's a button at the bottom on the right.
Okay. All right, I don't see anybody raising their hand.
You look at the attendees as well.
Yeah, I'm looking at the attendees.
Yeah.
Daniel, do you see any attendees raising their hands?
I do not.
Actually, for the attendees, it is a control that's at the bottom, not in the participants panel. I'm sorry, misinformed. It is at the center of the bottom of the screen.
Sure.
There's a raise hand feature for attendees, just to tell them where it is.
So if the attendees have a problem, can they send like a Q&A or something?
I could just move them over. I mean,
I
there's
think they may be for another app, for the concept review as a matter of
That's right.
fact.
They may not actually want to make a comment.
all right.
Yeah. One of them is here for the Veblen, so they might be sitting there for that.
Okay. All right. So do you want to bring them over before we vote, just in case?
Yeah, maybe that's a good idea. Just,
Okay.
because I would rather, I think they'll all be well behaved.
We'll try.
Welcome to our
Okay.
webinar.
Hello.
Were we there?
Yeah.
All right.
okay.
All right. So did any of you attendees want to comment on this application?
No, thank you.
All right.
Good.
Great. So given that there's no questions from the public and we have a motion and a second, I guess, Daniel, if you could take the roll, then we could see how this goes.
Julie Capizzoli,
Yes.
Celia Tazalar,
Yes.
Robert Vonsenbush,
Yeah, although I'm not convinced that it's the appropriate thing. I think it meets the ordinance. Yes.
David Shore,
Yes.
Roger Shatskin,
Yes.
Shirley Satterfield,
Yes.
Tom White.
Yes.
All right. Thank
Thank you
you
very much.
so much
Thank you.
for coming to our Zoom meeting.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Nice irises, Chris.
Thank you.
All
Bill,
right. Did they
Peter,
know
thank
how
you.
to leave?
Thank you.
Celia,
Yes,
Yeah.
We'll let the
the
door hit
leave
you.
button.
Don't have to like.
Thank you very much. Chris,
you.
thank you.
You bet.
Celia,
All right.
you need to move the public back out of being panelists.
Well, for the concept review, we need to keep I think at least 2 panelists.
Yeah, I don't know, has Brooke signed on?
Yes.
But I believe these two people, are they here for the concept review? Okay, but that's for public comment, so I don't think you bring them over until it's time for public
Okay,
comment.
all right. I will take them, I will send them back to attendees. Yes, all right.
And Clifford too.
Do my best.
All right. So, but, and is Brooke, I don't see a video and she's on mute.
She was just on.
Okay.
Celia, you still have one more. Okay, you got him.
Do you think we can start or should I wait until?
You should wait for Brooke.
Yeah, okay.
She must have just dropped off, I guess.
She's back in the attendee panel.
She's
back.
Celia,
She is.
you be able to bring her back in.
She's right here.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you put on your video?
A lovely green bee.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm not sure. Let's see. Very
Yep,
Good.
I gotcha. It's good.
Oh,
Hey.
hi. So this is a concept review for 3537 South Harrison Street, a proposed duplex, and the plans and elevation, the site plan, the plans, the elevation was all shared on the municipal website and an email. So Brooke, do you want to describe what you want to do?
Sure. Chris was going to start, but
We'll ask David Cohen or whoever can be in charge of the drawings to bring up the site plan. That might be the easiest way to show
I'm
you.
working on it right now.
That fella. Take your time. Take your time.
I knew that was coming.
Thank you, David. You're like the most experienced with Zoom right now.
Yeah, and hopefully I'll be able to. Hold on, I'm gonna. I have too many windows open in Adobe, so I'm gonna close and reopen.
If not, I can try to share my screen, but
Just give me a sec. Okay. Almost there.
Thanks, David.
Bet. There's a site plan.
great. Any chance you can blow that up, or
Yep.
let's just hone in on the drawing?
You got it. Actually,
That's one of the things that I've asked applicants to do, is to make sure there's as little white space as possible so that you can see the drawings better in this format. That works enough. That's great. That's great.
hold on, I need to. All right.
So maybe I will just kick it off by getting you oriented. This is South Harrison. Adjacent on the right-hand side of the property is the municipal park. And then up just past that is the architectural office parking lot. All that is on the lot right now is what's marked existing home. And there's an existing one-car garage to the rear right and an existing shed to the rear left. Brooke is in process of renovating that house and wants to thank HPC and staff for the administrative approvals that she got so as to proceed with the renovation of that house. On the left, you see a proposed new duplex, and to the rear, a new two-car parking garage with a driveway going down between the two structures, replacing the driveway which now exists on the right-hand side of the home. So in plan, that's what's proposed. If we go to the elevation, it might be the easiest way to show you what is unusual about what Brooke proposes. I think that's the fourth of four. It should be A4.
Yeah, let me pull it up.
There it is. So what you're seeing at the top drawing is the elevation from Harrison Street with the new structure on the left and literally a flyover connecting that structure to the existing structure. Now the reason that exists is that the buildings need to be attached. To comply with zoning, it would be an attached building. And that attachment needs to be of 12 feet in length. So the way that could be technically achieved would be what you see with a new structure on the left connected to the old structure. Having shown you this, I think Brooke's request of you in concept is not to make her build it. That is to say, the building on the left could be far more conventional and the attachment be done away with, but that would require a zoning variance. And so the issue becomes whether two homes separated in the way that the others on South Harrison are disconnected wouldn't be a better arrangement. So that's really the concept question of the hour.
All right, thank you. Let's try to get some feedback. Thank you. David, do you want to go back to the panel screen? That's great. All right. So questions for the applicant. Remember, this is a concept review. This is not an application. Tom?
Yeah, Chris, question on the lot itself. Is it a single lot or is it two lots?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. It is presently characterized as a single lot. It's 91 plus feet wide. Historically, in the records, it was two lots, each about 45 feet wide. But what happens in these cases in the borough is when they came into common ownership, they were merged together by operation of law because the lot requirement, the zoning requirement is a 60-foot wide lot. Neither of the 45s was 60 feet wide. They were stuck together to make a 90-foot wide lot. But until the prior owner bought them and combined them, they were separate properties. And had he not merged them, somebody could have built a house on the vacant 45-foot wide lot.
Right. Okay.
All right. Are there questions about the connecting piece? Yes, Robert?
I certainly think that we should suggest a variance so that they're two separate buildings. I think that that's a much better way of doing this. In any case, though, the building that is shown as the new building is very much out of scale with the building next to it. The building to the left of this is really the historic building in that area. And the scale of that, again, is quite different. And the historic district, I believe, ends with the next building. And I think that what is put on here should be something that's in scale with that historic district. And this does not appear to be. And certainly, I would think that should have no problem in recommending a variance that would allow 2 separate buildings. I think that makes much more sense, and is much more in keeping with the historic character of that neighborhood.
Thank you.
Other comments? Yes, Tom?
Yeah, I agree with Robert that the building, the new portion does seem out of scale. And part of our job is to try to assure that buildings that are put into the historic districts, are of a size, scale, massing, et cetera, that makes them compatible with the existing building. So I think Robert is completely right. And I noticed that the first floor to second floor structure appears to be 10 feet. And that's pretty excessive in this neighborhood for sure. But if that were brought down closer to 8 feet, that scale would appear to be more compatible. And that's my take on it anyway.
All right. Celia?
I also think that the new duplex, the house next door, is out of scale relative to the house that is next to it. And it's not the last house in the historic district. There's another very nice historic house that was, I believe, almost for that are here in Longpoles. And so it's not the last house. And then their house, I believe, is the last house in that district, because the next house is very kind of nondescript and big and boxy. So I think it would be a shame to have anything inserted in that streetscape that was so out of scale, and also in terms of the materials that are used. All of that has to be really carefully done, and it could really enhance the streetscape rather than, I think this could be a detriment to it. And I recognize this kind of connection thing, but I think the idea of having a bridge with the driveway going under it is just completely inappropriate. There might be some other ways to have some kind of a little hyphen. I think there's a house at the corner of Linden and Wigan Street that's a condominium, and there's just sort of like a little hyphen. So there could be some other ways to address that would be a little bit less just massive. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I should say this or not, but I may be mistaken, but I think there may be another house that that Ms. Brown owns on Ewing Street. That's possibly going to be demolished. Maybe that house could be moved over to this lot or something creative like that. And, I think, like Robert said, I would definitely, do whatever was needed to advocate for a variance if we could get something in there that was really in keeping with the district. And I don't think this is, although I'm sure it would be a lovely house. I just don't think it is in keeping.
Right.
I think there's one other thing, is that the orientation of the roof probably should be like this one and the one to the left, which is a historic house that even has the marker from before the revolution, the bronze plaque on it and everything else. And we're not really talking about the house on Ewing Street, but that's a different issue. I think that house wouldn't fit here anyway, wouldn't in terms of its size. But I think that's another issue which we should address at some point. And I think there are other means in which that could be preserved too, but that really is not part of this application.
Right, no, that's not,
this concept
that's not.
review. I understand what you're saying, but it isn't,
Well, Brooke
the
is
house
aware
is
of,
too long to fit
yeah.
in that section.
but Brooke's aware of it. She owns 2 historic homes here. She's trying to do right by both of them. We're working separately on Ewing Street.
Right, I understand that.
So just to be clear, there's 2 issues. One is about the connector. The other is about the type of house. If we supported a variance, what kind of separate house would we be supporting?
I think something that's in the scale of that existing house on that property, which is very much the same, although it's a smaller house, it's very much the same scale of the historic house, which is to the left of this as you look at the elevation.
So in my notes, I've got out of scale, I've got 10-foot floor to floor, maybe to 8-foot floor to floor, and roof orientation as 3 items to be carefully looked at with the architect.
Are there any other suggestions, comments?
I think that the fact that there is a porch on this and there's a porch on the other, that probably makes sense.
That's 4.
There's no porch on the other one that's next door, but that's a much older house.
I just want to say until the matter issue of scale is addressed, I think all of the other things are more, it's fine tuning.
But I
Yes.
do think that the separation without this bridge and everything else is an important thing. That in itself is a problem.
Right.
Yes, David?
I just
David
wanted
Cohen?
to ask a question for clarification, because in his summary, I heard Chris say 8-foot floor to floor, which is a very low ceiling height. Did you mean an 8-foot ceiling height, Chris, or did a member of the commission actually suggest an 8-foot floor?
No, let's blame it on Tom. Tom, what did you tell us to do?
I believe I said it was, the drawing shows 10 feet from floor to bottom of structure, next floor.
Right.
So
Okay, yeah.
similar, it would be an 8-foot ceiling or roughly 8 foot.
It's ceiling. Thanks, David, for catching that.
All right. But as far as supporting a variance to make the 2 structures separate, is there consensus that that would be supported? I mean, I would support that.
Yeah, if it saved us from having that high.
I think.
Did that answer your question?
Who was talking?
Yeah,
He's
you got a
freezing.
frozen screen. Mhm.
Oh.
Tom, you're freezing.
It's hot out.
Oh, okay. I think that we should support that variance. It seems in the past that it's been a hard sell from what I've seen in the area. There are some pretty strange connections between houses and adjacent buildings that have been either converted to apartments or flats. But that doesn't say that we aren't dealing with, an issue that's been dealt with before, but maybe we can deal with it in a better way. And I think what Chris and Brooke are proposing would be a better way.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. How do you like the driveway between the 2 houses?
Well, yes, Celia.
I think that insofar as it requires this bridge between the 2 houses to affect the condo or duplex, I don't like the driveway between the 2 houses. So,
But if the bridge was gone, should there be 2 driveways or 1?
I think 1 driveway makes sense rather than 2.
I'd just
David?
like to pipe in that, the type of variance that you might support as a commission, there are a couple of different types of variances. For instance, you could support a variance to subdivide the property into two separate non-conforming width properties, or you could support two principal structures on a single property. I think Chris would probably be better qualified than me to talk about the different types of variances, but I think it would be helpful from a concept point of view to get some commission feedback on what the best variance would be to come back with.
So our thinking was that if it's 91 plus feet wide, where 120 would have been required for 2 lots. And that shortfall is ameliorated a bit with one common driveway, 20 feet wide, nothing above it, and the garage, a shared garage to the rear. Arguably, you get to like 110 feet of real width, 10 feet shy of what the rule requires. So from the applicant's point of view, from the owner's point of view, that this arrangement is the one that seems most appealing. Showing you the bridge that attached the 2 buildings was done just to point out that would create a conforming, if unattractive, structure. If the commission were to support removing that and just leaving structures, at least as they show in plan, that would be her preference. And it's roughly almost the equivalent of having 2 60-foot wide lots.
Well, I think there's definitely support for 2 separate structures, but I think the height shown on the new structure seems out of proportion with the existing house.
Right. Another vote for out of scale.
Right, but I don't think anyone supports the bridge.
Part of the reason why it's so high may be to allow the space for the cars to pass underneath, to have the bridge at the right height. Whatever it is, it certainly is terrible, does not work. But I would support certainly that common driveway. I think it's better than having 2 driveways, which also remove some of the potential open area for that lot and what have you. I think this would be, I would, however, also probably support if it were a divided thing, I would also probably support that as long as there were 2 structures. But I would prefer certainly the common driveway.
So yes, Celia?
I just want to say that given the small scale and the generally low ceiling heights of the houses in this historic district, it's going to be difficult to build the type of new house that I think Ms. Brown is interested in doing. I guess this would be to build something and rent it or sell it. And people expect a certain type of house now with high ceilings and big open spaces, and it's not necessarily going to be that highest ceilinged house. It may be a very low ceilinged house, and then I think it's important that the architect be very skillful and be very perceptive of historic houses and have a lot of expertise in designing in historic districts. And I mean, there's a lot that can be done with really good design to try to incorporate the kind of contemporary features of comfort and openness that people are looking for, yet at the same time, be contextual within the historic district. So, I would just make sure that I gather you've already started down the path with an architect. I have no, this is out of scale. I would really advise you to make sure that you're working with someone who has the right approach and expertise to working in historic districts. And in terms of the variance, first of all, I'm not on the zoning board, so I can't really comment that adeptly on variances. And until I see the actual design, I'm really not willing to commit in any one way or the other towards supporting a variance. So that would be my position until I see an actual design that is fits in with this district. I'm just not going to go there.
So the part that you feel is non-conforming has to do with the height. The width and the length is not out of scale from the neighborhood at all. In fact, the house next door that is historical is much larger than both of these houses, much larger. And obviously I will have widths and lengths to show, but across the street, this house actually is very tiny from the front. It's 20 something feet wide. In fact, the impervious doesn't even go over 400 square feet from the existing. So engineering approval wouldn't even be necessary the way it's drawn. So it's not, I think the height must be what you're talking about, because the width and the length is not. You can even see on the drawing, the length is as long as the existing house on the lot, but the one next door is much, much larger.
Right. Brooke took photographs and we've got them loaded up, but they're very hard to get to show you. But obviously, when we come back with the real deal, we'll also show you the streetscape photographically and in plan.
And the other thing I'd like to mention to you is that I personally have never said anything about taking Ewing down. The town's master plan would have forced that. So I think you need to be really clear. I also own 2 historical houses on Nassau Street. So I'm very much in tune with old houses.
Thank you. Tom, did you have a question?
Well, just a comment. I think the applicant is correct. It's the height that's really causing the out of scale, at least in my mind. So I don't think we're arguing that the house has to shrink, markedly, but I think that we're saying that it needs to be shorter or less tall.
Less tall.
I would agree with that, but I also think that the orientation of the roof should be changed as well so that it is the same as the house on either side.
Got it.
All right. Are there more questions about what we support, or is this enough information?
It's helped us a lot.
I know the house is on Harrison, but where is it located?
Right next to the park, right next to the where the swimming pool used to be, the little concrete swimming pool. Or the gray building on the corner that was Mr. Graves' office.
Oh, okay.
And then the park, and then this house.
Right, okay, I know where it is now.
And also, do we have members of the public that are interested in commenting?
I think we may, if I may, just move our, we have a hand up. All right, yes. Do it, yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Coming over. Yeah, I see them. Okay. Oh, I think I promoted everybody. Sorry.
That's okay.
Well, just in case, you never know.
Promoted.
All right. So let's see. Are you able to unmute? Yeah, there you go.
Yes. Hi, I'm Charles Wampold and my wife Martha Reinhardt, and we're at 41 South Harrison Street, the lot next door. To begin with my comments, I just wanted to clarify a factual point. Chris, I don't think you have it correct about the history of the lot next door and how it became a single lot. It became a single lot with the last owner, Scott Cole. He officially made it a single lot, so it would stop being taxed as 2 separate tax lots. In fact, it became unbuildable. The small lot became unbuildable many, many decades ago. when the Whalens, who were the owners for many decades, decided to ask permission to build and encroach upon the second lot, and was told by the zoning that yes, to do that, if they could do that, and they did that, but they were giving up the right to make a buildable lot. So when I bought my house 20 some odd years ago, that was very clear from the zoning officer that no, two separate structures could not be built on that lot, and that has been the case for many decades. And so, so that's just a point of clarification.
May I add one thing?
Yes.
The house was sold with that stipulation in place. I made it very clear. I spoke directly to Scott. I made sure before he sold it that the new owners would know, because otherwise he would have gotten a lot more money for that house, and a lot of other people would have been interested in purchasing it. But there are historic and zoning. I don't even want to go with the shade tree, given the historic nature of the trees in our front yard, issue of the streetscape. But I don't believe it was ever able to be two lots.
So that's a point. Just I wanted to make clear that it never was intended for many decades that there would be two houses on that structure. And as a legal matter, I guess I would like to know if anyone in the zoning commission has said that in fact, by simply touching a house with a 2x4 that's connected between two houses, that makes it in fact a semi-detached house, a two-family dwelling. I would say that is not clear. So that your straw man argument, I question the validity that actually makes it conforming. My understanding is there has to be a common party wall, which does not exist under this proposal. So I don't believe that this could possibly meet the requirement of calling this a single two-family house rather than two single-family houses. And so I guess my question is, has anyone in the zoning board opined on this issue?
Yes.
Yeah, we've dealt with the zoning officer, Derek Bridger, and again, the reason that the 12-foot long attachment of that second floor addition over the driveway exists is to create an attached dwelling. As we understand it, Derek concludes that as a matter of zoning law, what you see in the plan and the elevations complies with the zoning code.
So the very fact that the same result could have been done by simply putting supports underneath the flyover and not have it touch the other house is the fact you chose to have it touch the other house.
It makes an attached dwelling in Derek Bridger's mind. It has to be a 12-foot long abutment of two different dwellings. And that creates a 12-foot long abutment, however unattractive somebody might think it to be.
Well, in any event, I would take issue with the beginning premise that does create a conformity. I would have to take issue with Derek Bridger.
Sure, by all means, you could talk with Mr. Bridger. What you should be aware, we're proposing to do away with that concept and come up with something more in keeping.
So I guess the second question I have is, there are of course ways to create a two-family dwelling by putting an extension off the back of the house and make it in an L shape, which would not harm the streetscape and would in fact create a proper two-family dwelling. Why has that not been considered, since that would do less violence to the historic streetscape?
So it was considered. It was looked at by my architect. There's a 35-foot setback for the zoning. So to do it in the rear would have been more difficult, and honestly, the streetscape would have looked horrible, because right now, when you walk by, you see hedges and an old fence behind that, which is set up high. And if you look at the streetscape across the street, as well as on the same side of the street, it's very quaint houses, most of which that don't have hedges and just have a welcoming walkway up to the house. And this is the only spot that you actually are kind of barricaded away from the lot. It actually doesn't look like across the street or down the street.
Well, may I add that across the street, of course, is not in the Jugtown Historic District.
No, but it's
only our
close to
side of the street is on the Jugtown.
Right. But we're talking about the streetscape, not just, and as far as the historical.
But it's the historic streetscape. Is
And
that
the fence
So-
has also been new. The fence was put up since we bought our house because they were bothered by our air conditioning units.
and
They
was
never-
not approved by the historic.
No, the fence in the front, I'm talking about the fence in the front, and it's so old. And
No,
Elizabeth has seen
Guys,
it.
guys,
Yes,
if I may, I know the commission is watching this with enjoyment. I want to point out that Chaz is a recovering lawyer whom I dealt with for many years, so we've known each other a long time. But we're listening carefully, we're taking notes. I am unaware of the Whalen restriction. I'm going to look into that. I am aware that Mr. Cole merged the two lots together. If he did it by choice as opposed to by operation of law, I think it happened one in the same moment.
He did it in an order because it had been taxed as a separate tax lot, and it
Right,
ended up.
but it wasn't a separate zoning lot. You couldn't have built a house.
It was not.
Right.
It did not.
So he saved taxes and did it that way. This was helpful. We hear you. We should show the zoning board and others why and a L shape running out the back works or doesn't work. The fences and trees and other items should be brought up. So it's very helpful for you to bring that up.
All right. Well, as far as the information that the commission can give you, do you feel that we've satisfied that, or is there more information you need from us?
I think I heard 4 times it's out of scale, and I think hopefully for Martha and Chaz that as we come back with a drawing that's more in scale, we can show it to them before we get to you.
I would love that. Thank you.
That would be great. All right. So thank you so much for coming to our meeting.
Thank you.
It was unique. All right.
And all right. So we look forward to seeing you again. Concept reviews are free.
And fun.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So, thank you. So, our next matter is the Veblen House. So I hope you got the proposed recommendation email. I know there were some editing changes like 2 minutes before our meeting, and I didn't get to see it. So, Clifford, did you?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
We're waiting for Steve Hilfner to be able to get on. He's been having difficulties.
Okay. Let's see. Do you guys see him as an attendee? No. While we're waiting for him, do you mind if we hear from Clifford?
Yeah, I'll just chime in. I sent Steve the link that I used to get onto the meeting. So it shouldn't be, the problem shouldn't be a bad link. I'm not sure what trouble he's having, but I'm not sure he's going to be able to get on.
I'll try to send him the one that Celia sent me also.
Okay.
Can you hear me, Julie?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Can I make a comment about the concept plan?
Sure. I mean, I guess
Because
off the record.
I guess I didn't raise my hand fast or my hand fast enough because you recognized Chaz, and then I thought you might ask for anybody else to comment. But in any case, so I totally agree with all the thoughts about scale. And Cecilia brought up the idea that besides scale, materials, et cetera, all that needs to be done. The applicant kept saying that the building is smaller, the proposed building is smaller than the one next door, 41. I'm not sure that that's the case. If that argument was going to be made, I would like to see square footage figures for that argument. The idea of an L shape on the back could be an attractive alternative for her. And very importantly, I think I agree with what Cecilia said, which is I would recommend that the commission not endorse a potential variance without seeing a full proposal of what's planned for the property. Because if you simply say, well, we think a variance is a good idea, let's let them just get 2 houses, without seeing what they're proposing for 2 houses, it may really come back to bite everybody that they've proposed something that's a big problem and now they've got zoning approval.
Oh, no, they'd have to come back to us.
Right.
So there's no way they bypass us. So we can only just say what we think about what we saw, but no, they definitely have to come back, and probably as a concept.
But I think there's a danger that, you know, the applicant could now be saying, oh, the commission supports a zoning variance. I mean, from this conversation that I listened to, I think they could go out and say that. So I would just say it's very important that what Cecilia said, that the commission not be seen as supporting a variance until there's an entire site plan.
We'd have to support the entire thing in any case. And I think the thing is that what we indicated was that we would certainly consider supporting the variance, and there probably would be variance. There might be variances necessary for other things as well.
Yes.
But we'll let you know if there's another concept review. But I feel uncomfortable discussing this without
Yes, sure. Mm-hmm.
the applicant, the owner. So anyway, as far as the Veblen property is concerned,
Elizabeth is raising her hand.
Oh yeah, okay. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
I just wanted Clifford to know that concept review is non-binding. So whatever comments, and because it is concept, that's why it's reviewed that way.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so as far as the Veblen letter, did everyone get the draft from today?
You want me to put it up, Julie?
Well,
David, it's not on the, oh, yes, you have it by email. That's right, sorry.
Okay.
I think it's going to be too hard to read off the screen, but
You might be pleasantly surprised.
okay, all right, let's give it a try.
I have to find it though.
I have it right here if you want me to do it.
Sure.
All right. Is it?
Oh, 1 minute.
All right, I think it's sharing.
There.
I don't know.
Yep.
Yep.
All right.
You can even zoom in a little bit, make it wider.
All right.
Beautiful.
Whoa. No, that's good.
Good.
I'm not good at clicking my trackpad.
So I just drafted this up pretty quick, just so the commission had something to look and edit.
I only had, I supporting this application. I just had one question. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Why it says the 12 years of volunteer effort. The efforts began in 2017. That's a little bit confusing to me. Is there something more that needs to be added to explain why there's been 12 years of volunteer effort? But
I think I can shed a little bit of light since
Working overtime.
yeah.
So the story began many years ago when the county still owned Harrington Woods. And there has been a strong advocacy effort going on for many years to try and get the county to save these buildings. Unsuccessful. And then as a last resort, the folks who are working brought it to Princeton Council to try and get the council to support
Just
it.
let me jump in. I just think it's a wordsmithing. It's these efforts, like the current effort, not these efforts. Is not referring back to 12 years of extraordinary effort. It's the current efforts or the effort at hand or something to specify that what we're talking about is.
I would start the sentence with in 2017, these efforts ramped up. Or something.
Yeah, just something. It's a little confusing otherwise.
Agreed.
The other thing,
I think it's great.
the other thing is that the cottage is actually not on that lot, I believe, but on another lot. It's on block 2901, lot 1. And this refers to the cottage as well as the house.
So if
So
I may,
the other block and lot should be probably put in as well.
if I may add to that what Robert just said, shortly before this meeting began, Steve sent a few minor edits to Elizabeth, and he did put in 2 separate street addresses instead of just one for the 2 properties, and he put in the 2 different lots. So he did make those corrections.
Clifford, could you provide those now so I can mark up the draft? I mean, I don't have it in front of me, but it would be helpful if I could just add it now.
So instead of 474 Herrontown Road, it is 452 and 472.
Okay, and what's the respective lot and block for each one?
So after block 2901 and the comma, it should say portions of lot 1, parentheses, the cottage, end parentheses, and lot 7, parentheses, house, end parentheses.
Thank you.
Now, is it just the cottage, or is it the cottage and the outbuildings of the cottage as well?
It's the cottage and the outbuilding, the barn.
Well, because that should be included then as well.
Included where?
The grant may not be.
Maybe the grant isn't for that. I don't know. I just question that.
I don't think the grant is anticipating any work on the barn. I don't believe so.
Okay.
At this time.
All right. Now, Elizabeth, now I know that there was some recommended text What did you add to the recommended text?
I don't understand.
I mean, like, so, like the bullet points, I think I saw some recommended text from Steve, but his
Yes.
didn't have any bullet points in it.
Correct.
So did you add that then?
I did, yes, just to
Okay.
kind of clarify what that was. And most of the written text did come from Steve and Clifford. It was just kind of massaged a little bit.
Okay.
So I just want to clarify that one item that Celia and Roger had talked about. So in that first paragraph, you want that changed to in 2017, these efforts were what?
I believe he said they were ramped up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, that's or
Okay,
yeah, if
something like that.
that's not overly informal or.
Okay, very good.
I just want to comment, Elizabeth, I just forwarded you Steve's edits in case you
Okay.
didn't get them previously in a Word document, and they're with track changes. So
Okay. Is there anything worth mentioning to the commission on that besides what Clifford had mentioned?
The only other items in there are a clarification on when Oswald Veblen and his wife purchased the cottage. And then there's one about the fact that the house was moved to Princeton from Morristown by wealthy Manhattanites. And then there's another one about Veblen purchasing the house in 1941 and living there until they both died. So they're just, I think, technical corrections. And then there's seems to be 2 more typos.
Okay, I'll look at the typos. I think that it did talk about 1936 where they moved in and lived until their death, right? And I know that there was some information about the house when they had moved or where the house came from, but I'm just wondering, is that something that will be, will add to the support letter? If so, is it something that needs to be a bulletin or it's just additional information?
I think Steve put it in just for clarification. I don't think it has any issue either way, positive or negative on the support letter. I think it's more of a clarification about specific dates.
Okay.
Because the original one said they purchased the property in 1936. So Steve simply broke down the fact that they purchased the property in two purchases, one in 36 and one in 41. So it was kind of a technical correction.
Okay, I can make that change.
you know, if you want to take, if Cecilia wants to take down her shared document, I can share Steve's version
Yep,
so
sure.
everybody could see it.
That would be great.
Because he also had alternate language around that first confusing comment that Celia had.
Let's see.
Great.
So you can see right here.
David, can you blow that up a little bit, please?
Sure.
Let's see. Responding to this.
That's good.
That's great.
Let's see. Okay, all right. So if the commission is good with that first paragraph change, I can modify it to read that way.
Yeah, I think that's better.
Yeah.
Good.
And Elizabeth, if you can, you have the file I just sent you, you can just accept the changes and that'll
Perfect.
Well, there's more changes in the second paragraph.
Yeah, I'm
right
just
there.
going to scroll through so everybody can look.
Can I just make a comment, which is that I feel that the role of the commission is to just approve the overall concept of getting a letter out. And I trust Elizabeth working with the applicant and maybe with Julie, who will be signing it, to get a well-written, accurate letter. I don't know that the entire commission needs to do this further review of edits. I mean, I'm happy, obviously I'm here for the duration, but is this really necessary? And is this really our mandate as a commission to do this?
I think that's a great point, Celia. I mean, I'm comfortable with Steve's changes. I think they're mostly technical. So I don't think we need to go through every single one.
Does anybody, if I may, I would just like to make a motion to authorize Elizabeth working with Julie to finalize the letter of support for the application to the New Jersey Historic Trust.
I second that.
All right, we can do an all in favor.
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
Yep.
All opposed? Motion carried. All right, so thank you for that, Celia. I think you're right. We can take care of the rest. And then we
It's
really—
a matter of trust, and I trust Elizabeth to do a good job. And
So on behalf, can I just say on behalf of the Friends, I'm not actually in the Friends, but Steve had a technical problem with getting on. So on behalf of the Friends, just want to thank the commission for its support of this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So by the way, good job to everybody adapting to this Zoom meeting format. I think all the commissioners and Elizabeth, and David posting letters, everybody's doing a great job and it's functioning quite well. So thank you for doing all this online so the public can have access.
Thank you. I appreciate the commission members actually did 2 practice sessions. So that was important.
Well, it shows.
Elizabeth's looking to be recognized, I believe.
What's that?
Looks like Elizabeth is looking to be recognized.
Oh, yes. Elizabeth?
Yes, I just wanted to ask Clifford, I know that you need this letter. Could you remind me what that date is? Is it June 5th?
4th.
June 4th. Okay, I just want to make sure we get it to you on time.
Yes, Thursday.
Okay, and so if we send it out electronically, I believe to, Steve had given me another person to send it to, and then we will mail the hard copy out to New Jersey Historic Trust. There was no contact person, so I'm just using the address that you saw on that draft letter.
Yes, that would be perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think the application is due on Thursday. Steve's been at least asking council and the municipality for our support documents by the 3rd at the latest, so that they can put a package together and send it in.
Thank you, David. That would be helpful.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We do have a public comment section. So Celia, do you see attendees or? Oh, you're on mute. Celia, you're on mute.
yeah, there are no, oh, wait. Oh, I just moved Clifford off to attendee, and we have Richard Rhine here from the Rhine Reports.
Yeah, hi.
Okay.
Yes. I didn't intend to make a comment, but speaking conceptually and as a pedestrian, the idea on the concept review of a single driveway serving 2 homes would be most appreciated. One less driveway to deal with as you're walking down a sidewalk. So I would just make that point since I'm here. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other comments for public comment? If not, we'll go over to staff report. Elizabeth, did you want to say anything?
Yes, there are just a few items that I want to discuss or just bring up to the commission for them to think about, if I could find my notes, but I can't. One of them is applications that ask for amendment to their approval. I know typically we have just allowed them just to reapply without charging a fee. I think that we should charge a fee because it's a change to their approval. And I think that what that says to the applicant is, you know, it's always better to come in with what you really want instead of coming back. The second thing is that we had a staff meeting this morning, and we did talk about the appeal, which Julie, I know that you're going to talk about later, but what Derek had said is he feels that HPC should have something that the property owners 200 feet are notified, even as a courtesy, to kind of prevent this type of appeal where there's a neighbor who doesn't know what's going on. And so I do reach out to Ed to see what, oh, I don't know if he's still here, to see what requirement that would entail, and you know, if HPC supported that. And
I think that's a great idea. I think that you know, at the planning board, that's always the case, that neighbors within 200 feet are notified, whereas we've never done that. And I really don't even understand why we don't do that.
Right. I'm not sure. I don't know if it's required in MLUL for historic preservation commissions to do that, but I think that we should look into that and think about that, because especially in the Witherspoon Jackson area, I think that it's going to be important to, as more improvements come through, that neighbors are going to be aware. Celia, just one more thing, I'm sorry. And the last one is, I know that when the consolidated ordinance came through, that the requirement for escrow fee was dropped. And I think that it should be considered to be added back on. That actually is something that is stated within the MLUL, that it should be charged. And I know that it was really to help those residents to you know, make it a little bit more financially affordable. But I think the commission should reconsider that, because again, the municipality is paying for our attorney fees, which I think that there's no reason why the applicant shouldn't. And I know at the township, it was always an escrow fee.
All right, sorry, David, sure.
It sounds to me like we're talking about two increases in monetary expenses to these property owners.
Yes.
And what's the basis of that?
Well, one of them is that we have had several applications come through as far as changes to their approval. We've had the house color, we've had this one today.
We're going to make people pay more money for changing their house color choice?
Well, what happened, it was approved that there were certain criteria within the approval. And so what happens is when they alter from that, they are required to come back, just like the roof. It's specifically stated within there that that material was going to be an asphalt shingle. So for them to ask for a change, they were required to come in. At this point, we have not charged them. So the fee is $75.
What would the fee be? Another $75?
$75.
I think it should be $25.
Well, I think that it's something that could be discussed as far as the cost, but I think that it
Yeah.
shouldn't just be a free ride.
Well, that would have to go through council. So, I mean, we need to involve David with this discussion. David Cohen.
I mean,
I would just like to say something, that when the township commission first started, there were no charges for anything. And the concept was that historic preservation was for the benefit of the community, not the not the homeowner. But that changed because the town felt that they needed the money.
I just hate to have a second layer of things that people can complain about, you know, Historic Preservation Commission review. Now, everything you do, every time you turn around, there's another. We have enough challenges.
Celia, did you want to say something?
Just on the notification of neighbors, and I can't unmute and have my dog. She's crazy. In the Edge Hill neighborhood in Mercer Hill, the Borough Historic Preservation Review Committee, we developed that policy for that particular neighborhood. And similar situation, a lot of houses very closely spaced, and there was no notification requirement, and to prevent neighbors from getting up in arms and just over, too much agita, the borough developed a policy of the preservation officer, the staff, sending out notifications to the neighborhood. But, that's a lot of work. And in most zoning applications and planning board applications, it's on the applicant to, I think, to notify those neighbors. So that's yet another, yet another expense to put on the applicant. But I mean, maybe they wouldn't have to be sent certified mail, or we'd have to, I don't know. But I would just be careful about adopting that, because then it's just going to create another administrative hurdle for our staff to do, and extremely underfunded and overworked as it is. So we just have to bear that in mind.
Now we're talking about 3 new expenses.
Yeah.
If you could tell me it went into a direct fund for an assistant for Elizabeth, that would be one thing. If it's just going to go back in the general fund, I mean, Elizabeth has not got enough help, that's for sure. But
yeah,
I just don't like the idea that suddenly, kind of out of nowhere, we're talking about three fees or 2 fees for 2 new fees for applicants in the district. And we also don't know what's going to happen with the township or the municipality's budget after all the stuff that's gone on this year. They already have documented increases of what they've had to do, supporting coronavirus protection. It's just like, tax rate might go up anyway, and then we're going to add these costs too. It doesn't seem right. Unless, of course, you can tell me it's for Elizabeth's assistant.
I wish. I wish, but no.
Then I think we really shouldn't.
David?
Well, I just want to make clear, this is not an initiative that's coming from council looking for more money. So
appreciate it.
Yeah, this is the first I've heard it. I do want to respond to Robert's point, talking about historic preservation being for the good of the community. You could say that of every single application, whether it's a site plan review by the planning board or a building permit application. It's all to protect the health and welfare and safety of the public, because if you didn't do that oversight, people could be building things that would do terrible things to the neighbors or to future occupants of buildings if they were unsafe. So I don't think that I'm opposed to charging for permits for historic preservation, because they have some special status of contributing to the community that other permit review and enforcement has. But, I'm certainly open to bringing this to council for consideration. I feel like it is the sort of thing that we would take guidance from the commission on. So if the members of the commission feel like we really don't want to, have an increase, then I think that'd probably be the end of it. But I haven't given it a lot of thought, so I don't want to encourage you one way or the other.
So,
Well, I think it's something that we could think about. I don't think we're going to take any action today. I think it's just something to, it's a new idea. I think we should take a couple weeks to think about it because we have another meeting on, what is it, the 15th?
18th. Oh, no, 15th. You're right.
The 15th. So we'll be seeing each other real soon. I just wanted to review at the zoning board meeting. The main issue was that we had discussed the French doors. I don't know if you remember the CAPA application, but we had discussed the French doors, and he had told us that they were completely unusable, and he wanted to put a window there, and we were trying to preserve the proportions of the opening. And what the objection was is that the French doors define the character, and so the zoning board wanted us to revisit the application because they felt that the French door issue wasn't completely vetted. Now, I think we were clearly told, and the doors do not exist anymore. So the question is, so the applicant, I believe, will come back to HPC with the focus on clarifying this one item.
that's correct.
And-
The zoning board did send it back to HPC to talk further about the French doors, and they're hoping that they'll come to an amiable decision, because otherwise it has to go back to the zoning board again, if not.
Right. So so basically, I don't know when it's going to be on our schedule, but it's a pretty, I think out of all of the changes to the house, that was the only objection, was involving that, replacing that French door. So I don't know if we'll have any sense of when that will be coming up.
One of the neighbors did come before and speak his piece, but the person who sold the house wasn't there, and she's very upset about it. And that's one of the reasons why it's very important for realtors to let people know what district or where they're moving and what they can and cannot do. So I think that should be put somewhere, that all realtors need to let people know so that this doesn't happen, because it is a point of contention.
Shirley, my understanding is that the applicant was told that it is a historic district, actually by the owner. So he did know, and that's one of the reasons he did come to HPC. So HPC did review that, but the appeal, as you know, came from Layton. And he was upset because he was not notified. That's where that whole thing came up from zoning. And the second one is that he felt that it was a defining feature that should have been retained, and if it was in poor condition, that it should have been replaced in kind. So I think the applicant did know, but it was the decision of HPC that what Layton was appealing.
So I don't know when it's going to be on our schedule. Elizabeth, do you know?
I just wanted to probably tomorrow or the next day kind of talk to you about what we have and see which applications you would like to hear. I mean, if that's one of them, we can move it to be within 2 weeks, which is, it's easy. I don't have to write a report, which is great.
Right. I mean, I think that my sense is that this could be resolved potentially. And it was just unfortunate that Leighton didn't know about the hearing.
Right.
So are there other, oh, Shirley,
Yes.
did you have anything else to add with that?
I just think Bernadine Hines will be a part of that the next time also, because it was her house that was sold and she's very upset about those doors.
Okay.
And I just wanted to let David know, because I know that you had questioned about all these additional fees and things like that.
David.
So David, sure, I'm sorry. So as far as noticing and any type of additional fee like escrow, something like that, that would only go for applications that went before HPC. So any type of administrative review, I would assume would not be subject to those criteria. That's my opinion. That's what I'm thinking.
All right. Well, are there other member reports? If not, I think that's the end of our meeting, and we'll be meeting again on June 15th.
At 4.
At 4.
One question, will there be another invitation to the meeting sent out for that specific meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So is there a motion to adjourn?
Reluctantly, I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Oh, and look at us, right on time.
I will second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Hey,
All right.
good job, everybody. Yay.
Thank you. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye,
everybody.
everybody.
Great to see you.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. See you on the 15th.
Bye.
See you, Tom.
Bye-bye,
Daniel.
Shirley.
How do I get out of here? Okay.